Without a strategy, you are doomed to fail. I'm Johann Elysee, and I'm the principal and co-founder of JMR & Co. Our tagline is conquering chaos through superior back office support services. And just as an aside, I teach a class at a local college about designing local programs. And I started off the class by telling my students about Sun Tzu's The Art of War. And the reason I did that is because I wanted them to hear about why Sun Tzu has become a guide for people both in business as well as in life. And one of Sun Tzu's core principles was that without a strategy, you are doomed to fail. And of course, he went on about particular strategies and how to fight your enemies. But the idea is to have a strategy so that you can react to changes in your environment, you can plan, you're better able to lead and have people follow you, and you're better able to get your goals because you have a plan. So one of my clients, Joanne from Trendy we've been working on a plan for the upcoming launch of Trendy. So what I'd like to do today is to tell you how to launch in 30 days. And the idea is to create a work plan, which is a set of steps with time to help you get to your end goal. So, how to launch in 30 days. What you actually want to do is to start from the end. So Joanne and I talked about wanting to launch Trendy at the end of March. So March 29th, we picked a date. We said March 29th should be the launch date for Trendy. So as we brainstormed about the work plan, we talked about what we would need to do on that particular day. So we would need to have the room set up. We would need to meet with the team that would be working on the launch. We would need to make sure that everyone on that team had their roles and responsibilities. We would create a checklist of those roles and responsibilities and task assignments. And of course, for the fun part, we would launch Trendy. So now, I mentioned that there was a time element, so we need to think about what happens in the weeks and days before the actual launch. So you set your plan up so that week by week, you need to know what to do. So we have the 22nd, we have the week before, which is the 15th, the week before, which is the 8th, and we happen to be meeting on the 2nd of March, so that was the day we started. So Joanne is really good at marketing, and Trendy already has a lot of its channels defined. So one of the things we knew is that we had to communicate to people about when this event was happening and why they should be there. So we said communications was something very important. Critical, in fact. So Joanne has built up this very impressive network, and we communicate through email. She's a Twitter maven, so Twitter, Facebook. This is a business network, so LinkedIn is a very important channel for them. And I think they even have an Instagram. Now remember, I said this was a party, so what would they need in order to make sure that the party was very well planned and executed and delivered? So we talked about the fact that the week before, they want to order the food and the drinks and also the dry goods. and anything else that would be related to actually doing, having the party. So other party items, decorations and ordering chairs and tables and all that stuff, etc. So now, clearly we're going to communicate more than once because we're driving people to this event. So the week before, one more thing, I forgot to talk about communications. So we want to talk about what we're going to say at that point. So communications, messaging. So you need to define what you're going to say at each particular point. So again, we want to communicate the week before. We know we're going to use the same channels, right? And we know that we're also going to have a different type of messaging, so we'll need to come up with that as well. So you can think about these things in terms of steps. So messaging, this would be step 3. This would be step 2. You can have step 1 here. And then maybe the day before. Why not? 3/28, a reminder about the party coming up tomorrow. Right? So then you keep moving towards where you are in time. So that's the 2nd of March. So on the 2nd of March, we talked about all the things that would have to take place in order to really bring this to fruition. So this is not just about a party, it's about the launch of Trendy Tripping as a company and as a brand. So there are things that people would need to do as part of that launch. So we want them to have the ability to book rooms, so booking. We want them to be able to pay, very important, so the payment process. We talked about actually the event planning, it's something else. Because remember, we talked about this being an event as well. Our communication strategy, which we talked about the execution piece, but this is kind of where we start talking about how we're going to do it. Since we've been working on the marketing plan, we knew some things about the audience. So we have some content around, Trendy Tripping's mission and the value that it's bringing to the network. So we talked about that, and then we talked about how that was going to be articulated through the messaging. So taking a step back, you can see that this work plan will help you first, of course, get to your end goal. But it can also serve as a task list to help you figure out exactly what you need to do and when you need to do it in order to get to your end goal. Now, I want to mention that under each of these activities, there are subtasks. So, for instance, one of the things that we talked about having to accomplish is defining the terms and conditions for booking the space. We talked about terms and conditions for the payment. We talked about meeting with the event planning team and deciding what the theme of the event is, what the look and feel might be, etc. And we talked about the whole communications area. So this helps you focus, and it also helps you, it serves as a checklist, so you can go and see, okay, I've done this, and I still need to work on my event plan and my communication strategy. So what else do I need to do in order to accomplish all these things? You don't need a whiteboard. You can have a piece of paper in your office or wherever you work, and you can write sort of the steps. And having it together in one place is incredibly helpful, because then you can see from a high level what it is that you need to do, and most importantly, when you need to do it. You can share this with your team, you can make changes, you can react, which is the whole idea about having a plan that will get you to your goal eventually, and that's why it's so useful. Let me know what else you need to have in order to create this structure for your company. Without a structure, you have no company. With structure, your business can go boom.